All right, good morning, everyone. Let's start our meeting with approving the minutes from our August 8th meeting. Right? I'll second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Budget report is attached, highlights in yellow. We'll start on the expenditure side, salary, expense, payment for to Environmental Design Partnership for their ongoing work on the desktop environmental assessments. Monthly payment for work on the ID website, and a $64 charge, our annual fee for using the Quicken software that we do for our financial reporting. Up top on the revenue side, we received a refund from Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth. They apparently found an overcharge going back to the work on the Bow property in their eminent domain case. We got some investment earnings, and then the balance is what we transferred from our accounts to pay all our bills for the past month. And that's this month's budget report. There's no activity on the Tryon side of the budget. Any questions?
What was the other operating revenue?
That's what we transfer, right, to cover all of our expenses for the month. Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Hopefully, reconciliations, Mike, you had the pleasure.
I had the pleasure. I reviewed them. Everything is in order and they were approved.
Very good. Reports, Dennis Wilson from the CRG.
Yes, welcome again, CRG, everybody has worked back out here.
Yeah, it's all that.
CRG's countywide EPA assessment program. EPA approved the work plan for phase 2 on Fashion 10 and Skips Vermont. Phase 2, Fashion 10 is planned to begin in the 1st September 18th. Still working with the village of all our town officials on the property. Waiting for EPA regarding solicitation for technical assistance grants to be used for planning work using a consultant to create conceptual site plans for advancing the redevelopment of phase 2 properties. CRG received one site RFP for the project called Project Aerosol. Fulton County did have an appropriate shovel-ready site. As part of the New York Globe's NanoTech, we recently arranged for the Fulton County organization to potentially be included with New York State industry assets and economic/R&D assets. Northern Borders grant application for CRG's Johnstown Parish Park. Route 38 project was not successful. Approved our release of funds request for the Johnstown Parish Park site purchase. CRG sold the later Earl buildings on August 31st. The buildings were purchased by ABX Sample Manufacturing. We plan to develop sewing operations in Bluffton. We worked with ABX Samco, 2 grants that were funded. The grants had a combined value of approximately $400,000, which will go towards the purchases. By invitation of the EPA, the CRG attended the EPA National Brownfields Training Conference in Detroit. EPA Region 2 conducted a training session at the conference, and CRG was asked to present as part of the Mohawk Valley Brownfield team. We spoke on Fulton County's brownfield efforts and the EPA. The Mohawk Valley Brownfields Developers Summit is returning for a 3rd year. CRG is one of the leads of the summit and has already participated in 4 planning meetings. And the event will be conducted at North County Community College. The City Commercial Loan Fund Committee approved a loan to start up timeline diesel. Loan was $60,000. The application CRG received the 6 County JDA Agricultural Loan Fund is still moving forward. We did a site visit and received additional information needed to further review the development process. CRG's Fulton downtown development specialist continues to work with the DRI project. Currently working with 8 private DRI projects, supporting them through their steps. RIP grant program established has 9 provisional awardees. The state will give final approval to them after detailed scope of work and environmental reviews are complete. The GDDF continues to assist downtown districts and recently held ribbon cutting at promotion of the Prince of Color King King and the Palace Bank. And food truck Fridays ended with a season food Fridays. And I've never read a report with so many acronyms. That's the report.
Any questions for Dennis?
Dennis, what was the skiffs? You said the skiffs garage or skiffs something wrong? Oh, former gas station. Oh, skiffs. Skiffs. Oh.
It's right on the right on Bridge Street. It's now a vacant lot across from Couples.
Okay, item number 2, Dennis. Larry did not have a photo, so I say.
Did I say did not?
No, you say you did. I think you call around, came around reporting that the last TV.
Okay, all right. If you need further explanation.
Yeah,
just
but-
get a little bit. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I just reported the news.
Very good. Thanks,
I
Dennis.
guess one other comment, Dennis, on number 7. I attended that event and so did Sue last year. And the information that went out before the meeting and all the signage had all the other IDAs in the region listed, and we were not. So it's just could ask Ron if we could be included in any
I will make sure. So,
publications that go up.
get my card, I'll leave here, I will call.
Okay.
All right, moving on to old business, status quo on the Nexus Renewables project. Same on the next page with the Wind Stanley and the Trion Electric, pretty much the same report as last month. For the our backup generator at your last meeting, you authorized installing a UPS and changing some programming on the pumps. The UPS has been ordered. We're waiting for that to be delivered, and that will be installed once that is received. Burial Health Project, same report as previous months in terms of executing that agent and equipment lease. Still waiting for that to be complete.
I have a correction for item B.
Okay.
It's 5 to 7 megawatts, not 7 to 8.
Right, so. Very good. Thank you, Sue. And any change on the timeline or when that's going to be done? Is that still fourth quarter of next year?
It would, so I get lost sometimes. I talk in terms of FYs.
Yes.
So I would say by the beginning of the actual year of 25.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving on to new business. Attached is a proposed 2024 budget for the IDA, which I've put together. If you can turn to the first page, which is the proposed Trion Technology Park budget. You can all find that page. Up at the top, we have on the revenue side, we have a reimbursement from Wind Stanley we're anticipating for the mowing work, and the year 3 payment from the Gloversville Water Board. So that would be totaling $15,000 in revenue. And then on the expense side, the one big change is on the insurance side of things. And it's really this time last year, When we put together the budget and adopted the budget for Tryon for 2023, we were anticipating selling all of the lands at Tryon to Winstanley, which would have resulted in a reduced insurance cost, which is reflected in this year's budget. But since we didn't sell all that, next year's budget is going to, it reflects the fact that we still have all of that land and have to insure it. So it's really not necessarily a change per se, but that's why the numbers differ from this year to what we're proposing for next year. So next year's Tryon budget is 15,450 compared to 12,300 for this year.
I forget, are we insuring the building, the minus building, auditorium, or is that?
A base amount, yes, a small amount.
Okay.
Certainly not full value. Okay. Flipping the page now onto the full IDA budget. Up top on the revenue side of things, the big change there is adding the option payment that we're receiving from Winstanley. That was not reflected in last year's budget because that all took place. We didn't approve that till this year, earlier this year. Other non-operating revenue, investment earnings being conservatively low there. And then the other non-operating revenue line, again, that is the amount we would need to transfer from our reserve fund to cover all of the expenses that are listed down below, less the revenues that are shown up top. On the operating expenditure side of things, again, for the most part, the first couple of them are about the same. Weston Company asked for a small increase, the first increase they've asked for in 10 years, but increasing it just $500 for their work. Kept in there the same number for this year, for next year for the shovel-ready sites, some engineering work that may need to be done. On the other operating expenses, again, everything is for the most part the same as this year, except down at the bottom under update county's development strategy. I inserted the 25,000 that the board had previously discussed, offering to the county to assist in that update being prepared. And I also put in $10,000 to potentially do some marketing work relative to the Crossroads Business Park, and maybe an attempt to try and encourage some development there next year. So the total budget for next year is 244,220, and again, most of that increase is attributed to those last two kind of capital projects of 25 and 10. For the most part, the rest of the budget stays the same. Now, you don't need to approve this today. I present it to you for consideration. You don't have to adopt it until by November 1. But if you wish to do so, you certainly could today if you want. But questions, comments, suggestions on the proposed budget for next year?
And Adam indicated it's going to renew for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indicated. Indicated.
We'll check.
Not 100% confirmation, but I have no reason to think otherwise. Okay.
The only comment I made to Jim when we reviewed this last week is now that Tryon is so small, do we want to consider consolidating these into one budget to include the Tryon information in the general budget?
Which we certainly could do under the operating expenditures. I would just add another category called Tryon, and all of these, the items that are shown over here on the separate page, we can incorporate. You know, what we talked about was when you talk about consolidating, you think going from 10 to 5, you know, in terms of numbers or something, you know, by consolidating this, we're still going to end up with a 2-page budget, you know, per se. But if that's what you wish to do, you know, we can certainly do that. And maybe that's if you want to do that, I would make those changes and come back at your next month's meeting with that revised look to the budget.
I have no question.
Okay, let's do that. And I will present that in final form. Any suggestions about changes to the budget? If you have any between now and then, let me know. Now, for that Crossroads Business Park, it just, you know, that the number of 10 grand, it's one of these, pulling it out of midair. It may not be enough. It may be more than what we need. But with all of these things in this budget, the one thing to remember is this isn't locked in. You always have the ability to draw from your reserve funds to be able to undertake an initiative or add some more dollars to a project. So, okay.
Well, I just have one question about the website.
Yep.
The budget that seems to have grown.
Mhm.
You know, are we getting our bang for our buck? You know, $15,000 buck, and that's spent on the website.
It's what's budgeted. We're going to come in under that, Joe, this year. I'm anticipating. There's a number of things that have to be done, you know, each month. This recording, for example, just as for starter purposes, Scott sends it to Betsy, and Betsy had to put this onto our website. Our agendas, every agenda has to go onto our website. Meeting notes, every meeting notes has to go onto our website. We're going to change our UTEP here in a few minutes. That's going to need to be done onto the website. But because we're now mandated to have so much information on our website, that's where most of the work is done every month, is just incorporating these documents and putting them onto our website. Okay?
Along with that as well, and Betsy also manages the LinkedIn page. You know, that way.
I've liked it, FYI.
Yeah.
I did all.
I get that pretty up to date, and I get it all the time, so share them. You know, that's kind of weird views now, videos. So it's not just the right.
I believe in order to do what you wanted for the Brownfield Summit, there is a contribution. Dennis, do you have any idea what that is? So you may need a line item for that.
Good point. We need a expense line item for meetings, IDA. We have one in there. Okay, we have one for meetings. Yep. But maybe we should put a line item in for sponsorships. Yeah. Or like, that's what this is would be, but if there's other events that you may want to sponsor, we have an allocation in there for that. Would that be all reasonable? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Upcoming is the IDA Fall Academy that's sponsored by the New York State Economic Development Council, held on Thursday, November 9th. The agenda to that session is attached to your agenda here. If anyone is interested in attending that session, let either Carol or I know, and we will get you registered for that event. I know Dave and Greg went to the spring one and seemed to find that very useful. So if anyone is interested in attending, let us know. And the same on the next page of the 2023 Rural Housing Coalitions Conference. It's going to be held up in Lake George. If anyone is interested in attending that, again, let us know and we can get you registered. All right. last item on our agenda, open agenda is, talking about our uniform tax exemption policy. As you recall, over the last number of months, we've been having, discussions about, updating this policy, with respect to trying to incentivize certain types of developments, that we don't see enough of here in the county. We talked about adaptive reuse projects, housing projects, brownfield projects, and tourist destination projects, mixed use type projects. And what you've done is we've talked about putting into your UTEP different types of pilot schedules, different than the standard 485B that we now have for all projects, that you've now come up with some different pilot schedules for some of these very specific projects. And if you could turn to page 7 of this of the UTEP that everybody should have a copy of. These are the new pilot schedules that we've added that you folks approved at your previous meetings. The first one was for brownfield projects. The second one is for adaptive reuse projects. The third is for tourist destination projects. And then the last one is for housing projects. And so those four afford you the ability to provide a little bit more incentive for these types of projects than is available from the current 485B model pilot that's in your UTEP. With that, the goal to me today is, if you find these changes acceptable, for the board to endorse these changes, and then to authorize me to send a copy of what you got right in front of you in the format that it is to every local taxing jurisdiction, saying, here's what we're proposing to do. If you have any comments, let us know. So this would be set to go out tomorrow, and I would ask for comments to come back in time for you to review anything that you might get at your next meeting. And as we talked about at the last meeting, you might get comments back that make some suggestions. You would be obligated to review those comments, but you wouldn't be necessarily obligated to make any changes that could be offered to your way. You'd have that would be a choice that you would have. Questions?
And we still have the right to come up with any pilot that we choose fit, depending on.
Deviation procedures remains in there that would afford you that ability to do so. Yep.
Jim, on the definitions, adaptive reuse project at the end, it stipulates, creates new economic activity and helps eliminate neighborhood blight. How do you define neighborhood blight?
One definition, two definitions, three definitions, it's tough one to define.
Is that a common component
Yes.
of these kinds of things?
Yes. Carol, agree?
Yep.
Yep. It is certainly subjective, Dave. Okay. If there are no questions, would someone be willing to make a motion to, Greg?
Second.
Motion is to approve and authorize me to send these out to taxing jurisdictions. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Like to request going into an executive session for the purpose as shown on page 6 of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Sue and Greg, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Going into executive at 8:25
Hi, Dennis.
a.m. Should have closed the meeting. Sue and Todd, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
8, we're at 9:46 a.m. Thank you, folks. We'll